I know you all had fun with Dr. Seuss Facts Part 1. So with nothing else to do, I decided it was time for Part 2. Number 1 and 2. The origin of How the Grinch Stole Christmas and the Cat in the Hat. 1957 was a very successful year for Theodore Seuss Geisel, as he published not one, but 2 best-selling children's books, starting with The Cat in the Hat in March and followed by How the Grinch Stole Christmas in December. And while it's true that these books are among Seuss's most famous works, less well known are the origin stories behind them. Exactly what was it that inspired Dr. Seuss to create these beloved characters? Well, according to Seuss, while brushing his teeth on the morning of December 26, he looked in the mirror and saw an image he described as Grinch-like, looking back at him. This incident apparently made Seuss realize that the Christmas season was no longer as joyful as it had once been. So he created the Grinch to try to rediscover something about the Christmas season that he had lost. While it's true that Seuss occasionally over-exaggerated certain details regarding the inspiration for his books, given the message of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, i.e. that people should shirk materialism and instead focus on family and friends, I think this story has a fairly firm basis in reality. It's also true that Dr. Seuss often identified with the Grinch, or at least I assume so, as in the 1980s he bought a new car with a license plate that read Grinch. Writing The Cat in the Hat, however, proved to be much more of a challenge, as before he could write the story, Seuss had to deal with the list. You see, back in 1950s America, and possibly now depending on where you go to school, teachers were given a list of words that their students were expected to learn by the end of the year, and with each list came a variety of teaching tools, the most famous of which were the Dick and Jane easy reading books. I say famous because these books were famously boring, as the writers made no attempt to make the stories interesting. You know, see Spot Run and all that. These books still exist, by the way. Just enter Dick and Jane easy reading books into Google and see what comes up. This was a problem, as with television on the rise and a lack of interesting reading material in the classroom, children just weren't motivated to learn to read. But the cries of bored first graders everywhere would not go unanswered forever, as in 1956, Seuss started work on a new kind of easy reading book that would, he hoped, entertain as well as educate young readers. However, imprisoned as he was by the confines of the grade 1 reading list, Seuss had a hard time coming up with an interesting story, or any story at all. But after struggling with the word list for the better part of a year, Seuss decided to base a story around the first 2 words on the list that rhymed, cat and hat. Seuss's hard work paid off, as The Cat in the Hat was an instant bestseller and a hit with both children and adults. In addition to giving children an easy and entertaining story, The Cat in the Hat also incorporated many tricks to help make reading easier. For instance, the words and phrases repeated throughout the story were put in to give the book's dialogue a regular rhythm that helped young readers learn through look-say repetition. The Cat in the Hat was so popular that it started a revolution in the field of children's literature. Inspired by the success of The Cat in the Hat, Random House, Seuss's publisher at the time, created Beginner Books, an imprint dedicated to creating educational and entertaining literature for 3 and 9-year-olds. So thank you, Dr. Seuss, for writing The Cat in the Hat, inspiring a new kind of children's literature, and killing Dick and Jane. Number 3. The 7 Lady Godivas and the 7 Peeping Brothers. Like most great artists, Dr. Seuss occasionally liked to get out of his comfort zone and experiment. And undoubtedly, one of his most disastrous failed experiments was the 7 Lady Godivas and the 7 Peeping Brothers, Seuss's first and only picture book for adults. First released in 1939, the 7 Lady Godivas are loosely based on the historical Lady Godiva, a woman who, according to legend, rode through the streets of Covenant naked in order to protest high taxes. Unfortunately, Lady Godiva's protest was hampered by the fact that only one person actually saw her, a tailor named Peeping Tom, and therein lies the origin of the word Peeping Tom. Supposedly. Just like the historical Lady Godiva, all of Seuss's ladies are naked. though the only reason given to explain their lack of clothing is that they are simply too preoccupied to care about their looks. No fluffed up primping, no feathers, no fuss. However, despite the main subject's lack of clothing, the book comes across as borderline PG-13, as the drawings never show anything too scandalous, and the humor wouldn't be too out of place in one of Seuss's children's books. The plot of the book revolves around these 7 Lady Godivas, each of which are engaged to one of these 7 peeping brothers. However, after the untimely death of their father, Lord Godiva, the 7 sisters swear that they will not marry until each one of them discovers a new horse truth. And as you can probably guess, as the book progresses, each of the 7 sisters discovers a new horse truth and then gets married. For instance, one of the sisters, while looking into the mouth of a horse given to her by her uncle, gets her nose bit and thus discovers that you should never look a gift horse in the mouth. You see what I mean about the humor? Unsurprisingly, this book was not a bestseller, as its initial run sold only 2,500 copies out of a printing of 10,000. The book's publication also caused quite a stir in libraries across the country, as confused librarians often misshelled the book, putting it in the children's section along with Seuss's other works. Well, I bet that traumatized a few young kids. But despite being a massive failure, Seuss didn't want to give up on the concept entirely, and often toyed with the idea of recreating the 7 Lady Godivas in another genre, whether it be as an animated short or a musical. Though he apparently struggled with the problem of exactly how you get the horses on stage. Well, I hope you liked this very short video about the unknown facts of Dr. Seuss. If you want more videos, or you just like this one, then please like and subscribe. Well, I'm Silver Jade, saying please remember to support your local library, and I'll be seeing you.